Well, now let's get the reaction from London and Paris. Nima Elbagir is at 10 Downing Street and Will Ripley is in Paris. Nima, first to you, looking at the political fallout, not just the end of David Cameron's reign, I should say, but also questions about the future of the opposition leader.
Well, we're potentially looking at a redrawing of the political map here. Jeremy Corbyn was accused by even those campaigning within the tent of the Remain campaign of not quite appearing to have his heart in it. Jeremy Corbyn, of course, his Labour constituency, it encompasses a lot of those rural, those economically depressed, working class areas that have voted in very big numbers to leave. And those closest to Corbyn for a while now have been getting this sense, we understand, that he is battling his conscience, that while the official Labour Party line was that they were pro-Remain, Jeremy Corbyn himself never once appeared alongside the Prime Minister David Cameron to campaign very publicly. And this is a man who was himself a political outsider until a real wave of populist protest carried him to the top job in the party. So a lot of perhaps slightly bitter Remainers in the aftermath of this are saying Jeremy Corbyn should have, could have done more, and that there need to be consequences for that in terms of restructuring at the very top of Labour. And also, if Scotland vote to leave the Union of Great Britain, that will have huge ramifications for Labour, because whenever Labour have taken a British election, it has been Scottish voters that have carried them to the Palace of Westminster. So if Scotland goes, so too potentially does the prospect of a Labour government, perhaps for another generation, Lynda. So this is a seismic event, not just in terms of Britain's relationship with the EU, but also in terms of a reordering of the political classes here.
Some huge changes ahead. Just stand by for us, Nima. I just want to go to Will. Will, other countries are looking at this Brexit, and some of the far right-wing groups are looking to follow suit.
That's right, Lynda. We've already seen calls for referendums in Sweden, the Netherlands, and here in France, where the French President, Francois Hollande, has been meeting this afternoon with political leaders from all different parties in this country, including the far-right National Front Party and its leader, Marine Le Pen, who within just hours of the Brexit vote was calling for a Frexit, a referendum. Public opinion polls in this country show that more than 60% of French have an unfavorable view of the EU. A lot of those people are not here in Paris necessarily, but outside in the northeast or the southeast, the more rural areas or industrial Rust Belt areas. These are the people whose this populist message is really resonating with, and the socialist government here, that's obviously a concern for them. There's a new poll out this weekend that shows a quarter of French citizens at this point would support a similar referendum. And then, of course, in that event, it could very easily swing like it did in the UK, given the public opinion poll numbers. So this is something that is a challenge facing not only the government here in France, but Germany, Italy, Spain. All the leaders of those countries came out after the Brexit vote and have continued to say they understand that people are not satisfied with how things are working in Brussels. They feel that economically they're not being taken care of. Unemployment here in France, for example, is more than 10%. They're worried about the migration issue, and they're worried about terrorism. And I was speaking with fans from the UK who were here for the Northern Ireland versus Wales game, Lynda, and they expressed a lot of those similar concerns. So even though France and Britain in many ways very different, also some similarities in the way people think.
Okay. Well, I just want to go back to Nima. Nima, we are learning of a new term called regrexit. A lot of people there regretting what has taken place. There is a petition against the results. What is the argument of those who've signed this petition?
Well, the numbers in this referendum, the margin wasn't quite crossed to make this legally binding automatically for Parliament. They didn't meet those numbers neither in turnout nor in terms of those who voted for Brexit. So those who are signing this petition have that on their side. There is also, like you said, regrexit. Someone described it to me almost as a nationwide hangover on Friday. Even those who voted to leave waking up going, oh God, it's actually happened. So for a lot of those signing this petition, their hope is, and perhaps it is just pie in the sky, but their hope is potentially that this could be a wake-up call in Europe, and that European leaders could give Prime Minister Cameron, or whoever the incumbent becomes, enough concessions that he would have, or she, could be a she, it could be Theresa May, that's a contender, and she's a contender in this leadership contest, give them enough concessions to come back here to the British people, to Parliament, and say, say, do you know what? The ground rules in this have changed. What the reality was when Britain voted to leave, what the reality is now are very different, and that could be grounds for a referendum. But I think it's important to stress 1.5 million at this point signing this petition, but 17 point something million voting to leave. The numbers aren't quite yet adding up, but it is really a window into the British national psyche as it stands right now, Lynda.
A nationwide hangover over these results. And those sore heads will continue for some time, no doubt. Nima, Elbagir and Ripley, thank you both very much.